Hello everyone, this is Srimati. I hope you're enjoying the class with the subject auditing. Audit is generally done with different or specific objectives in mind. So, the objectives of audit can be classified into the following like primary and secondary objectives. What is primary objective? Verification of accounts and financial statements. Wise. What is financial statements? Balance sheet and profit and loss account which are drawn or prepared to exhibit a true and fair view of state of affairs of the business. State of affairs of a business means sheet and profit and loss account of any firm. And the next object is the secondary objective, or we say a subsidiary objective. As you know, the main object of audit is the verification of accounts and statements. So, the deduction of errors and frauds must be recorded as incidental to such main objectives. Let us see the primary objective of auditing. So, opinion has regards financial statements. So, according to SAP 2 issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, the objective of audit of financial statement is to enable auditor to express his opinion as regards the truth and fairness of assertions made in those statements. Those statements, the financial statement. Financial statement, as you know, it is balance sheet and profit and loss account of any organization. Section 227 of the Companies Act requires a company auditor to state whether in his opinion really the balance sheet of the company gives a true and fair view of the state of the company's affairs as at the end of this financial year. It means the balance sheet of company which has been prepared and submitted by the client has that of the same which is already existing in that particular company state of affairs. The next one is the profit and loss account gives a true and fair view of the profit or loss for its financial year. While making such examination, the auditor is act as an independent and professional reviewer. What is auditor's independence? It means freedom from any control and influence of interested parties such as client, organization, its management and owners. The auditor is free from all these interested parties. Next, what is professional expertise? Means which will enable him to exercise a due care in selecting the appropriate procedure and technique so as to ascertain that the financial data under examination as prepared and submitted by his client are a fair representation of what they claim to represent the interested parties. So we could say the rendering an opinion on the truth and fairness of the financial statement is legally compulsory in case of a company auditor and the auditor of a banking company or insurance company and of any cooperative societies or government companies like this. But it is optional for non-company auditors. It is not compulsory. The terms of their appointment provide otherwise. So, the auditor's opinion is only with respect to financial position in the balance sheet of the fairness of assertions to the financial position of the enterprise which has been made in the balance sheet and the results of its operations as stated in the profit and loss account. Please note it down. It is not, the auditing is not an assurance as to the future viability of the enterprises or efficiency and effectiveness of the management has controlled the affairs of the enterprises of that particular year or future years. As a layman, one can say the auditing is always associated with the deduction of fraud and errors. But now we could say the main objective of auditing is to give an opinion about the financial statement, and the next only the deduction and prevention of errors and frauds. According to standard auditing practices for the frauds and errors issued by ICAI, the errors may be defined as an unintentional mistakes or misdescription in the books of accounts by the way of mathematical or clerical mistakes or oversight or misinterpretation of facts or misapplication of accounting policies. Let us see one by one. Errors which may be committed by the client account can be classified as follows. The first one is clerical errors. Here I require your attention, please. Do remember the accounting entries which you have did in your board studies, that is journal, ledger, postings, for easy and clear understanding of these errors. The clerical error may be committed in the course of a business at the time of recording in the books of original entry, like purchase book and sales book. In clerical error, we have two types. The first one is errors of omission. The omission means errors which arise on account of transactions not being recorded in the books of accounts, either wholly or partially, called omission. In case where a transaction has been totally omitted, it will not affect the trial balance. So it is more difficult to deduct. For example, omission to enter purchases in the purchase book. It means both debit and credit aspects are equally omitted and the numerical accuracy in the balance sheet will not affect. But in case of partial omission, it is easily discovered as the trial balance will not agree. Please do remember these things. And the next is errors of commission. When incorrect entries are made in the books of accounts, that is the books of original entry or ledger accounts, either wholly or partially. The errors are known as the of commission. For example, the additions, castings and carry forwards are wrongly did in the books of accounts at the time of postings or calculations. For example, the amount of 232 might be entered as 322 in the books of original entry. This type of errors can be easily located while vouching the purchases or original invoices and rectified easily. And the next type of error is errors of principle. What is errors of principle? I think you people know that the accountant of any business must aware of the principles of accountancy. Can you recollect the principles of accountancy? In case of personal account, debit the receiver, credit the giver. In case of real account, debit what comes in, credit what goes out. In case of nominal account, debit all expenses and losses and credit all incomes and gains. So based on these principles only, the accountant has to make a recording or he has to post the entries in the books of accounts. Suppose if he fails to follow such principles while recording into the books of accounts, particularly in case of a double entry system, then it is called as errors of principle. These types of errors may arise unintentionally due to the lack of correct knowledge of the principles of governing to the operation of accounts of a business. For example, if the revenue expenditure is shown as capital expenditure or when closing stock is overvalued, the profit gets inflated. Now the profit is shown more than what it actually should be. Such type of errors will never be discovered by mere routine checking. So, the auditor should exercise utmost care in discovering such errors. So, an intelligent inquiry and investigation of every transaction is required at the time of auditing. And the next error is compensating error. So, what is compensating? So, when there are two or more entries which exactly counterbalance each other, they are referred to as compensating error. This is known as offsetting errors because the effects are offset. So it is difficult to deduct as it is the trial balance will still agree. For example, the error which has been committed while recording a transaction has been compensated by another error while recording another transaction. That is a compensating error. So here both the sides of trial balance are equally affected at the same time. It may or may not affect the profit and loss account. And the next error is errors of duplication. Here the same transaction has been recorded twice in the books of original entry and also posted twice in the ledger. For example, the purchase worth of ₹5,000 may be recorded twice in the same account. Those errors will not affect the agreement of the trial balance. It is not so easy to trace them. So such errors can be located while vouching the records. How to detect these errors? In simple terms, the duty of auditor is not to trace and locate the differences in the books of accounts and the errors. He is required to audit the books only, but in many cases, the auditor is frequently called up on to discover the differences in the books of accounts. Such a situation arises only when the accountant is unable to trace errors. Auditor should apply the following test. The trial balance should be checked and the list of debtors and creditors should be compared with the trial balance and compare the names of accounts appearing in the ledgers with the names of accounts already recorded in the trial balance, and then verify the totals of the books of accounts and check the postings of entries from various books into the ledgers and verify the journal entries are some of the ways to deduct the errors. How to deduct the deduction and prevention of fraud. A fraud includes any deception, cunning or tricky with an intention to deceive or cheat another person. It refers to use of all those means to gain an advantage by intentional of truth. The fraud may be committed in any of the following ways. The first one is misappropriation or embezzlement of cash. To take, in case of a small type business enterprises, the possibility of misappropriation of money are very little because the individual owner is in touch with all the affairs of the business. But in case of a large business houses where there is a divorce between ownership and the management and the individual owner do not have a direct control over the receipts and payments of cash, the opportunities of committing frauds are frequent. So, the theft or misappropriation of funds placed in mistrust or the belonging to one's employer has been treated as an embezzlement of cash or misappropriation of fund, which may be committed in any of the following manner. Non-recording of cash sales totally and making false entries in the accounts of customers as regards bad debts, discounts, rebate, etc. and entering the cash received from one customer against the account of another customer, and then non-recording of bills exchange which has been discounted with the bank, and then non-recording of unusual money receipts such as donations, and recording of payments which were never made. To detect this type of fraud, the auditor should carefully compare the entries in the cash book with those in the rough cash book, the counter files, and the money receipt book, and then original evidence in the form of vouchers, invoices, salary registers, wage sheets, etc. And the next one is misappropriation of goods. This can be committed by recording purchases of large quantities than the actually supplied, and by appropriating the balance quality in each of unlawful person's gain. See, this type of fraud is difficult to detect unless proper stock record is kept. That is, the proper records of goods inward and outward must be maintained in every organization. An efficient system of internal check must be introduced in a business. There should be an adequate external security arranged to see that no goods are taken out of the business premises without proper authority. The auditor can detect this type of frauds by physical verification of the goods. And the next type of fraud is manipulation of accounts or the falsification of accounts without any misappropriation. So this type of fraud is always intentional, predetermined, and is more difficult to detect as it is usually committed by the higher management cadre persons connected with the business, such as directors and managers. The accounts are so prepared that they present a picture of the state of affairs of the business different from what it actually is. Because of this manipulation of accounts, the profits are increased or reduced. The true position is concealed. Why they are doing such type of manipulation and falsification? It is to avoid the payment of taxes. Example, sales tax and income tax. The manipulation of accounting can be done in many ways. Example, recording fictitious sales or purchases so that the profit may be increased or reduced, whatever the case may be. And then recording the fictitious purchases or omission of purchases. Then omission of expenses or income. By the undervaluation or overvaluation of assets or showing the fictitious payments and receipts. So the detection of these frauds requires careful and searching inquiries as they are committed by responsible officials. The auditor who uses adequate professional expertise and reasonable care in detecting such frauds cannot be held responsible if he fails to discover a well-planned application. Next one is window dressing. It means the practice of arranging the disposition of assets and liabilities in such a way that the affairs of a business as shown in the subsequent balance sheet does not truly represent the nominal financial position of the business. Here, hiding something which is not in actuals. This window dressing may be done in the following ways. The recording of sales and incomes of the following year in the current year, and then recording of goods sent on a sale or return basis as a regular sales. Then treatment of normal revenue expenditure as a deferred revenue expenditure. Then provision of a less depreciation on the assets. This provision of a less depreciation on assets will definitely make changes in the profit or loss of a business. To sum up, the overall objectives of the auditor are to maintain a reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, and to report on the financial statements and communicate as required by statements on auditing standards in accordance with the auditor's findings. Hope you enjoyed this session. Until the next, thank you.